Okay, this is the Eighth Lane podcast. Today we have Elsa. Welcome, Elsa.
Thank you.
Do you want to give us just a short little bio about yourself? Tell us who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. Elsa Jaworski. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. So mountains has been relatively new. Super
It's
fun
so
though.
crazy.
Yeah. Originally from Orlando. Went to school out in Georgia and then was back in Florida for work and just really wanted to be somewhere where I could enjoy, the outdoor access. And I was running at the time, but definitely not trail running or anything remotely similar to what Utah has to offer. And applied for a job out west and didn't know anything about Salt Lake and took a gamble, knew one single person out in Salt Lake and actually a friend from high school and saw that she was doing all sorts of crazy stuff on Strava and was like DM'd her on Instagram. I was like, help, I got a job. Should I take it? And she said, yeah. And I moved out. So it's been now 3 years since I've been in Utah.
That's crazy. So 3 years since you started like trail running too.
Yeah. Trail
That's
ran
awesome.
pretty much as soon as I moved here. Actually, the day that I moved here, she took me up to Brighton.
Oh, cool.
And and she was like, all right, we're going to go for a run. And it's like immediately straight up, whatever. I don't
Like,
even
wait, run?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get dropped. I was like, you can drop me, it's okay. And anyways, it's been kind of a wild ride since. Absolutely love it out here. And been into trail running and that's kind of it.
That's so crazy. So when you were running in Florida, was it from like high school that you were running or was it just like, I like to exercise? What was it?
Yeah, so my mom's actually type 1 diabetic,
Okay.
and she was diagnosed in her late 20s. And
It's so rare that late. That's gnarly.
Yeah. And so at the time, the American Diabetes Association was training for the London Marathon. And my parents were not active in like the running world at that point in time. And she had us like relatively young. And so as they were training, she just got into it and my parents started traveling all around like the globe for marathons.
Cool.
Yeah. Really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And so my brother and I just grew up running. My brother ran collegiately. And I just thought partying in high school was a little bit more fun. So I ran, but kind of just kept it fun and ran all throughout college, but just for funsies.
Yeah.
So I grew up running. Like it's not like something I picked up in adulthood. It's always kind of been around, but definitely not in a competitive nature. It's been nice. I think there's a lot of people out in Utah or just in general who ran collegiately who kind of hate it or have like a strained relationship with it where I've just kind of kept it fun all these years and it's still fun, at least for now.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like that's perfect for trail running too because like the whole thing with ultra running is just like it's a party. Like it's meant to just be
silly.
fun.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I feel like growing up, even my family, like, you'd see people at like the turkey trot or whatever with like the hats on or like whatever. And you're always like, oh, those people. And now it's like, now I'm that person. Like the person dressing up weird. I'm like, oh no, who have I become?
Like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing your photo on the Tahoe 200 Instagram page. And I was like, what kind of beanie is that? Like, what is she wearing?
Not a beanie. Latex. The latex beanie. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I want to get into that because weren't you like filming a music video when you ran? Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. Like the entire sport of ultra running is like ludicrous to begin with. Like the fact that people are running over marathon distances is just like dumb. So
it's hilarious. It's funny.
Yeah, for sure. And so I just like try to keep it fun and lighthearted. I think a lot of people think it's really difficult and inaccessible. So if I can try to show a side to it that's more lighthearted and gives people the opportunity to be like, oh, I think I can do this too. That's what I want to like exemplify. So it's that, and I just like to be an entertainer. It's also selfish.
I like the attention. It's fine.
Exactly. So I just started like making music videos. I did it for my first 100, and it kind of just like snowballed from there. People
What was your
it.
music video for? I
did it
first
to oh my God, why am I blanking on the song? Shania Twain. Man, I Feel Like a Woman.
Oh really?
It was super fun.
I can't wait to see these. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So we did that one, and then from there, it's kind of been like every race or like larger scale race that I've done. Trying to, what song am I going to do? What am I going to do? How do I up the ante? And I love Pitbull, like not ironically. Like I think he's hilarious.
Like actually,
yeah,
I love him.
One of my top Spotify artists. And so it's like, you know what would be really fun is if we all wore bald caps.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, my crew for Tahoe,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them knew each other, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot like had only met them in passing.
Yeah.
So I figured, they're gonna spend 3+ days together.
Yeah.
A good way to break the ice is have them all in like latex and
Yeah.
doing something ridiculous. And it worked. So
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
we had a blast.
That's crazy. So I want to talk about Tahoe 200.
Mm-hmm.
So give us just like for anyone that hasn't heard of it, what is the Tahoe 200?
Yeah, it's a 200-mile race put on by Destination Races, I think, in Nevada and California. So it crosses into both. I'm pretty sure. Now I'm like maybe it doesn't. And I think the course has changed a little bit over the years, just based off of wildfire issues that they've had. But it's a 200-mile race. You have to complete it in one go. It's not like a stage gate or you can sleep, but it's not like you have a set up camp anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's 200. It's just over 200 miles. It was supposed to be 205. A lot of us clocked 213. They claim our watch is glitched, but I'm taking all
Everyone's
the mileage
watches.
I could. Yeah, I'm like,
They're
I'm
like,
gonna take
everyone's
213.
Yeah.
And it was like 36,000 feet of gain. So yeah, late July. They pushed back the timing of it. I think generally speaking, it's part of the Triple Crown, which Destination Races put on, which is Tahoe 200, Bigfoot, which is another 240.
Or is it just
it's like 215 or 210.
Okay.
And it's in Oregon, Washington, somewhere up there.
Yeah.
And then Moab 240. So it's part of the Triple Crown. It's the first one. They pushed it back a little bit later this year just because of the snowpack. But yeah, it's a 200
Was it
mile.
hot this year then?
Honestly, not too bad.
Not too bad?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So a 200-mile race that basically follows the Tahoe Rim Trail. It was an out and back, which is, I think for some people, they don't like that as much. But for me and ease of my crew, it's actually really nice. And you see it at vastly different times of the day.
It's not like you're like not being entertained.
Yeah. And like different mental states and the whole gambit. So it's an awesome race. Candace puts it on. They do a great job with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably saw her ultramarathon streak. She's the girl
insane.
that did that. I know, insane ultramarathon streak.
Like, I wish I could do that. That'd be awesome. Quit my job, just run all day.
Yeah, I've got some cute clients at work, and I think like 3 or 4 older guys like left me the newspaper with her, and they're like, look how great she is. You're not like her. Kind of like rubbing it in. I'm like, yeah,
Candace is great. Thank you. I know this.
Amazing. Yeah, it's hilarious. So how long did the Tahoe 200 end up taking you?
I don't actually know my exact finishing time. It was just over 72 hours.
Okay.
So 72 hours.
That's a great time though.
It was a lot better than I was expecting to do. I really had, I've only done one 100 before. I've done a handful of like overnight stints and like longer adventure runs. But I had no idea what I was getting into. I just knew that it would take a really long time.
Yeah.
So I think I was aiming for anywhere between 80 to 90 hours, like conservatively. And I felt really good about being able to complete it in 90 hours. But especially with like sleep deprivation and trying to move for that long, I wasn't really sure how my body was going to feel. So we just kind of winged it.
Yeah. And you ended up taking second place too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That was your first 200. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really exciting. It's nice. Like I don't run to podium and I don't run to really be competitive. That's not really where I see myself fitting in the ultra scene yet, at least. And so, I want running to be accessible. I want to show people that, like I said, that anybody can do this. Like I truly believe anybody who wants to do it can do it, should feel like they have the space and like belong on the trail. And then I also do a lot of running for charity, like certain organizations that I feel that I that deserve to be elevated. And so like that's, at least I feel like that's my space within ultra running. And when I can podium, I think, you know, it's really cool that I can marry the two. Because it gives me an elevated platform to be able to, you know, spread those messages on. And show people you can like do dumb shit and have fun. You know, like it's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like there are really there are big lows in those races, but there's so many more highs than there are lows.
Yeah. It also teaches you so much about yourself, like trying to pull happiness and fun from like a place of like serious pain.
Yeah. For sure.
So it's like a good like life lesson too, kind of.
Oh, like, yeah. I mean, even just like the cyclical nature of, okay, I feel really good. This might last 5 minutes, but I feel really good.
Yeah.
And then when you dip into the lows, it's like, okay, this feels so shitty, but it's going to last like 5 minutes or 5 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is. But you know that it's going to end, right? Like the good and the good and the bad are temporary, like regardless. And I feel like that's life, right? You know, it's going to be good, it's going to be bad, it's going to be ugly, but it's going to be good at some point. So like there's the hope for
Just
that.
wait.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Eat a quesadilla and it'll get good. You know?
Yeah. That's so funny. So training up to it, you got in a few months before the race started?
Yeah. So they pushed back the timing on it and I was on the wait list.
Okay.
So I really didn't think that I was going to get into the race. I had posted on like the Facebook page trying to understand my chances because I think for Bear and Wasatch, there's a couple of races that I know if you're on the wait list, it's pretty high that you get off because people just drop or decide to defer. I
think Bear's like if you're 350 or something like on. That, you'll get on.
Yeah. And I was I don't know, like 39 or 40 or something like that for Tahoe. So in my mind, I was like, oh, no problem. I'm definitely in. And then I posted on the Facebook group and somebody had said, you know, I've been 13th 4 years in a row and never gotten off. So I was like, wow. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. So it was kind of hard to plan around. And then because there was so much snow this past year, I got on. So many people or they pushed the dates and I got in. I remember getting the email of like, all right, you know, you've been accepted. And I texted a couple of people. I was like, should I do it? And they're like, well, and I was like, I already accepted.
You're like, I already said yes.
I was like, you should have known that I was already going to say yes.
Don't freak me out.
Yeah.
So. That's crazy. Was it like just excitement? Were you nervous? Because like, training for a 200 is like you got to train.
Yeah, I was training. I had 100 planned as a backup in June. And so like I had pretty much just switched all of my attention to just doing that just because I didn't think I was going to get into Tahoe. So I really feel like the training's not super different between 100 and 200 because I don't know. I recently got a coach like within the past month, but I've been pretty much since I started ultra running like no coach. Just like having fun and like running like long miles all the time. So the training didn't really change because I really didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'll just figure it out. I'll just run a lot and hope that works out. And it did. So
it's awesome. Yeah. That's crazy. What was your longest run leading up to the race?
I kind of thrive on high mileage. Like if I could run 100 miles every week, I would 100%. I'm trying to think the longest. I did a 50 miler. I like a route that I created in the Wasatch. I called it Backyard 50 and forced all my friends to come out and hang out with me.
That's awesome.
So I think that was the longest, but I had like a stretch where it was like 30-20 Saturday, Sunday, 30-20, 30-20, 50 miles, a road marathon. And it's all just stuff that I wanted to do and had said yes to. So it was a lot of like really high volume back to back.
And do you run a lot during the week or was it mostly that weekend mileage you feel like that carried you to?
I run like, I'd say generally like 8 miles almost every day.
Okay.
And then on the weekends, it's the longer, like 20s plus.
Do you do mostly trail? Do you do any road?
I try to do as little road as possible. I hate the road. So there's sometimes when it's necessary and you have to do it, but if I could be on the trail like all day long every day, I probably would be.
That's awesome. I think that speaks to like every ultra runner I've ever met is like I started to actually like excel at these races when I prioritized trail running over road running. And for me, road running is just like, it's so easy. Like I can just like wake up and walk out my door.
I know, so nice.
And run. But like taking the time to like get to the trail is worth it. And it's way more fun. It's like exponentially more fun than just like plodding out miles on the road.
It's definitely more fun. It's more variable. Luckily, I'm like, I haven't had any injuries. Like, I don't know that I want to say that out loud.
You're like, oh.
I've had some like IT band issues when I first moved here and I first started, but I was doing like probably 50% road, 50% trail. And then as soon as I switched to more trail and increased my volume, I've not had a single problem. And I think a lot of that has had to do with being predominantly on the trail. And also like I said, I hadn't really worked with a coach before. I just started doing speed work like a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
But I generally only run like slow all the time. Like party pace. That's what I call it. All day party pace.
Yeah. Which is what ultras are.
Yeah,
so.
right? Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that speed work is like as a coach too. I think it's important to like speak to that because like everyone puts so much of an emphasis on that zone 2 work.
Yeah.
But sometimes just like letting yourself push, it feels good, and getting your heart rate up there is also like important.
Yeah, it's been fun to now like experiment with it a little bit, and it's like, oh wait, this is actually like fun. I don't hate it as much as I thought I was gonna hate it, which is nice. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I like running slow, and I don't really like to push most of the time. Like I just want to like sing and dance with my friends, so it's a lot easier to do that when you're like kind of walking.
Yeah, I feel like that is probably what makes you a good ultra runner, though, is that you like make it fun. It has to be fun. You're out there for like 72 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think too, like there's not money in ultra running, generally speaking, right? And there's so few sponsorships. So the vast majority of people are paying to do this sport, to like put yourself through like extreme pain. So if you're paying to do that, you might as well like have a really good time.
You might as well like it.
Yeah, exactly. So when you can shift your mindset to just having fun and being silly, I think that's like so much more beneficial.
Yeah. So how do you do that in your 200-mile race when it got like maybe a little bit dark or like a little bit rough emotionally? How do you pull back?
Yeah,
happy?
I was lucky. I had pacers the entire time that I could have a pacer, which was huge. And I think most of my crew knows my personality and knows when to kind of shake things up a little bit. I'm like telling them, make me do a cartwheel, make me like do whatever to shift my perspective. But there were some stretches of the dark where it's, it's just like head down, grind it out.
Yeah.
One of my pacers was like, do you want to like sing and dance and have fun, or do you just want to put your head down? I was like, I want to put my head down. I was like, I can't think about that right now.
This is the time.
Yeah. And I think like I do try to highlight, and I think on social media show a lot of like me being fun and having like a silly, goofy time. But there are those moments where it's like, oh my God, I like hate everything in this moment. It doesn't come without that, and I want people to be aware of that as well.
Yeah.
But I think when you're out there for the right reasons, right? Like I do want to have fun, and I am here because I genuinely enjoy the sport. It's so much easier to accept that things suck for an hour or two. Yeah. Like I'm just gonna sit in this like shitty spot for as long as it takes, and then I know like as soon as that sun comes up, or as soon as I get to the next aid station and there's like a potato, I'm gonna be golden. You know? So I think it's just like more of the acceptance of like embracing the suck.
Yeah. So you said the thing about the potato.
Yeah.
What are your like foods? What were your foods, I guess, on the Tahoe that you were like, holy cow, this has brought life into me. Let's dance.
Yeah. The biggest one was mac and cheese.
Really?
Yeah, it was like Kraft mac and cheese.
Awesome.
One of my crew members was making like a large pot with, I think he was saying he was putting like 6 sticks of butter in every pot of mac and cheese. I'm usually okay with food, but I was having kind of a hard time. And I was also eating every like 45, 50 minutes, which is just really often. Like it's really, really frequent. And I was doing a good job of doing a lot of like gels and like honey stingers and the typical nutrition. And when I go to aid stations, I try to eat as much real food as possible just because it's few and far between. So quesadillas were going down well. Pizza, I feel like just anything like high carb. Slurpees. I love Slurpees. Yeah, so anything that's
like straight just sugar.
Yeah, exactly, like hummingbird juice. So yeah, I'd say that, and then the mac and cheese was like life altering.
Was there anything that you ate that you like hated, or that your stomach was like, I'm not accepting this?
Yeah, I love spring, and I had a ton of the speed nut flavor.
I love that one.
Yeah, I used to. And I had my first one, and it was like kind of warm out, and it's just like that,
Yeah.
I had my first one, I was like, no, and like that was it. As soon as I like came to the next aid station, I was like, throw away every single speed nut, like get it out of my sight. I cannot look at that. But I think that was really the only thing that I had that was like absolutely like heinous, and I didn't like throw up or anything like that, but it was still just like unsettling.
Yeah.
So
threw a knot in there.
Yeah.
Well, it's lucky that you kept everything down. I know like on those long races, that's a huge issue for people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's staying on top of your fueling is huge. Like if you don't and you get in the hole, it's really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
The nice thing about longer distance races is you have so much time. So, you know, people are definitely concerned about, trying to keep moving. But for me, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I'm out here for so long.
Yeah.
So, stop, take a seat on the side of the trail and eat this spring energy that's going to take me maybe like 2 minutes to choke down, even if it's really bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, take the time to do that so that you don't like have to take an hour at the aid station, like puking.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of like learning those little things as you go, of take the time now versus take the time later. But you can only get that through trial and error, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. How did you choose that 45-minute interval? Like I have met runners that say like, oh, I do like just a huge bomb every like hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I also prefer the 45 minutes. How did you choose it?
I honestly don't even know. I don't know why 45 minutes. I think like hourly is what I would tend to do, but 45 felt like enough time where I was getting enough calories in frequently to be able to like make up in case something went wrong, or and it was variable. Like I had a beep on my watch, like the timer was going off to remind me to eat. Yeah. Which is like so beneficial.
Yeah.
But it was flex. So if I was at an aid station and ate a ton of stuff, it's like, okay, if my watch just beeped, I can give myself another 10, 15 minutes before I eat something else.
Yeah.
The nice thing about having pacers is they're like, you have to eat.
They're going to make you eat, yeah.
Eat whatever this is. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Even if you're like almost
don't
about
want
to throw
to.
up. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like your pacers brought a ton of stoke for you.
Oh, yeah.
Who were they?
Yeah, I had the best pacers, the best crew, like the best people. I'm super close with my parents, so my parents come out to a lot of stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I had both my parents crewing, and then for my pacers, I had 5 total. So my brother, like I said, ran collegiately, and so I'm close with a bunch of his friends too, who ran collegiately as well.
Yeah.
So I had 2 collegiate runners, which I was like, it's going to be slow. It's going to be a lot of walking. Be prepared.
Yeah.
So my friend JL and my friend Whitner came out to pace. I had one of my coworkers come who lives in California. Yeah. And he has kids, and he had texted me, I think like a week before the race. Went running with my 8-year-old, and they threw a temper tantrum. I'm ready to pace you. Like I got my practice in. I was
You're like, hallelujah.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, my temper tantrum might be worse. So be prepared. Yeah. And then I had 2 of my best friends from Salt Lake. So they're part of Women of the Wasatch, which is an awesome, incredible group. So I had Justine Hewitt, who is an absolute crusher in the Wasatch. She has the Millwood FKT. She won Scout. She's huge at Rufa. She's absolutely incredible. And she ran 50 miles with me just because.
That's awesome.
And then my friend Rosemary, who's also a huge crusher. She likes to stay under the radar, but she's a badass.
You're like, I'm pulling her out of
the radar. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I want to hear more about Women of the Wasatch, because it is like a really cool organization that gives a good community to like girls who want to trail run. Because for women especially, I think it is intimidating, because like of a million reasons. But yeah, 100%. Tell me about Women of the Wasatch.
Yeah. So when I moved to Salt Lake, I only knew one other person. And it was a friend that I went to high school with, and her name's Meredith Johnson. And so Meredith started Women of the Wasatch.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she had texted me, like, we should start a running group. I was like, you're the only person that I know here. And
so you should.
Yeah, she knows everybody somehow. So I was like, I'll help, but I like definitely can't recruit anybody because I would only recruit you. Yeah, and so I kind of, assisted her in it, and it's pretty much as soon as I moved. So we just celebrated our 3-year birthday in October, which is
That's
awesome.
So cool. Congrats.
Yeah. It's been the craziest ride. But yeah, it's a women identifying trail group. And yeah, we just want to create a safe space for women to feel like they belong on the trail. I think, like to your point, it can be really intimidating to get out on the trail, especially not just in the Wasatch, but any race you go to.
Yeah.
The field tends to be skewed towards predominantly males.
Yeah.
So you feel like maybe, you don't belong out there, or certain races don't have like anything specifically for women. Like there's not like tampons or pads or anything, or they haven't considered women running in the races.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is shifting now. I think there's a lot of vocal women and men in the space to kind of flip the switch, but we wanted to be able to create a place for women to group up and be able to share their experiences. And it made it super, at least for me, approachable, because I saw Meredith and I saw other girls running 50 miles or running whatever. I was like, oh, if they're doing that and I run with them every week, I could try to do that.
Yeah.
And it makes it way less intimidating. And yeah, I mean, it's just like the craziest group of like the most badass crushers. It's been really fun to see, and we've grown so fast, faster than I think any of us could have imagined. So we do a lot of demos with different brands, just to get different girls to try out different shoes, because running seems like it's a cheap sport, and then it's a $300 watch and $200 pair of shoes and a $100 vest,
Yeah.
So if you can try out some of these different things before actually purchasing them, I feel like it's kind of nice. So yeah, it's a great group, and I mean, I'm obviously biased, but if you're in the Salt Lake area or Draper, Park City, Ogden, we have chapters there as well.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Everyone that I know that has like even been once has said like it has made it so much less intimidating for them.
Yeah.
And I think you said like if these girls are doing these races and I run with them every week, then I can do it. And I think that's how everyone starts ultras. Is like, oh, well, if they did it, I can do it.
You're like, we walk together every Tuesday basically, and they ran 100 miles. I think I could try it.
Yeah. And that's amazing, because these races will like change your life. They'll change the way you view yourself. They'll change the things you think you're capable of. So
100%.
Yeah, it's a super powerful thing to like invite anyone to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. We keep skipping back and forth, but I do want to go back to Tahoe. Just talk about you finishing the race and when you realized you were going to get second, when you realized you were going to finish, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. I'd say in general, like most of the race, I was in pretty good spirits. Around like 80 to 90, it was really hot. And I tend to do heat pretty well. I'm from Florida, and I feel like heat training, like I tend to have that on lock pretty well. But there was this like horse race going on, so I kept having to like pull off to the side to let these horses pass, just like annoyed, and it was hot. And then my pacer and I took a wrong turn, like barely, like we added a mile or something, I think, and I'm just sobbing. I'm like, I just want to be at the aid station, you know? And I was really struggling at that point, just like really tired. I think I was almost 100 miles in, and it was hot, probably almost 30 hours or so.
Had you slept yet?
No, I hadn't slept yet. And so I got to the aid station, and it's really hot, and I'm realizing that I still have over 100 miles to go. And at that point, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm just going to try to, like, power through. And I was talking to one of the medics And at that point, I was pretty far ahead of the like larger pack. So she told me, she was like, you haven't slept yet. Take a nap. Take an hour nap. Like, you have the time. Just sleep and see how you feel when you wake up. It's like, okay, I can do that. And I slept for like 15, 20 minutes, and I woke up and I felt horrible. And so I like put my stuff on. I'm feeling so defeated. And I start to walk out, and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel awful. She's like, go back to bed. Try it one more time. So I went back to bed and like laid down for another 15 minutes or so. And I woke up and I looked at my crew. I was like, let's fucking go. That's it.
Like, this
is it. And everybody was like hyped. They're like, oh my gosh, she came back to life.
Like, what was that 15 minutes?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I feel like that was kind of like the inflection point of like, all right, let's do this. We're going to do it. And so, you know, we kind of kept cruising. And I think like it's so special to be able to run through the night and have a sunset, have a sunrise. Like, it completely like revitalizes you. And so once because I had my 3 male pacers first, and then I had my 2 like best friends from Salt Lake later, because they were actually in Tahoe was the same weekend as High Lonesome. In Colorado.
Yeah.
So they were actually there pacing High Lonesome, and they flew to Tahoe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they ran like, I don't even know, 70 plus miles that weekend, something ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're awesome. I have great friends. And so once I saw them, that was it. I was like, we're going to finish. And especially once I got my last pacer, Justine, she was the last 50 with me, and I run with her almost every single morning. And so once I saw her, I'm just like crying, like, we're going to finish. Like, we've got
let's
this.
Go.
Yeah. It's like 50 miles, like small change. At this point, I've been out here for so long. But yeah, so I think like once I saw her, then I knew that, you know, it was the home, like however long it took us, it was, you know, like we would finish. And at that point I was further ahead timing wise than I thought. You know, based off my like 80 to 90 hours, I was like way ahead. So I was like, okay, even if something goes horribly wrong or I need to sleep for like 2 to 3 hours one night, I have the wiggle room to be able to do that.
Yeah, you were like 20 hours ahead of the 90. That's awesome.
Yeah, and like the cutoff was 105 or 105 or 100, one of the two. So I was like, I can finish. I know that I can finish.
Yeah.
So that was like nice to have like kind of money in the bank. But as far as placing goes, like that is not my that's not my driving force for running, and so. A lot of it was out and back sections, and so other racers would say things, or other people would make comments. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. I don't like that's.
Just because it doesn't matter to you, or it would stress you out too much?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It's like, I don't want this. I don't want to then like switch into competitive mindset because I want to be having fun. You know? And then also just a certain point, it's like, I don't want to have this like baseline anxiety of like, oh, I need to like pick up the pace or I need to do whatever.
Yeah.
But that did come later, you know, once we got kind of towards the end. I'd found out that, you know, or at that point I knew that I was in second, probably around like, I don't know, 130, 140, 150 or so. And I was feeling good and, you know, kind of just kept cruising. And then once I got my friend Justine, she was like, Sally, who was in third, is, you know, is charging. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I was like, I'm going to try to push. And I tried, and I was like, okay, I give up. I was like, I'm so tired. I was like, she catches me. Maybe we can hang out for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can chat.
Yeah, maybe we can be best friends. And my Justine didn't tell me that like Sally had also decided to, or not decided, but had kind of let off the gas. So I thought that she was just like increasingly catching and catching and catching.
Stressful.
Yeah, and so I was like still kind of trying to push, but also like felt like there was nothing left in the tank. And so I definitely think I would have gone a lot slower had Justine not lied to me. Lied in the best way possible. Yeah.
But also actually thanks.
Yeah. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah, I was watching Sally. That's why I was like following the 200 because I love her. I think she's got a great message to share. And she had like a lot of stomach issues, I think was one of the main things. Her feet were like really gnarly.
Yeah, I think she had something from Cocodona.
Yeah. So I was watching her and waiting for her to finish. And then they posted that you finished. And I was like, oh, I've seen that girl from Woman of the Wasatch page. That's so random.
Everybody's like, who's this girl?
Why does she have a bald cap on? Yeah, literally. So Pitbull music video.
Yes.
I want to hear about it.
Yeah. Like I said, I like to just keep it silly and goofy and have fun. And so I love Pitbull. And I was like, this is going to be, like, if we're doing 200, we have to go all out. So, I'm buying bald caps for everybody. I'm making everybody just be, like, absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And then it's really fun, too. I think the volunteers and the aid stations really like it because I come through, I'm like, play this song, like, dance with me. Yeah. And I've actually become friends with a couple of the volunteers at the aid stations.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah, and it's ridiculous. Like I said, it's just dumb to be running 200 miles. Like, what a stupid idea. So you might as well do something even more ludicrous, like run in a bald cap, which is not very breathable, turns out.
It's a little sweaty.
Yeah. But it was just super fun to, be able to be filming it the whole time and get other people in on it. Yeah.
What song was it?
Don't Stop the Party.
Don't Stop. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Because it was a party. We had an absolute blast. And, I think the crew liked it, the pacers liked it, the volunteers liked it. It just, it was a good, like, constant reminder of we're out here to have fun in a very, like, visceral way.
Yeah. So finishing it, what did it mean to you? Yeah. Emotionally, like, how was that?
Oh, my God. It was awesome. A couple miles before, like, I was really ready to be done. I was like, I wish I could say, like, the hour leading up to it, I was like, oh, my God, I'm floating on cloud nine. But I was like, oh, my God, where the fuck is it finished? I had, like, a really gnarly blister on the bottom of my foot that, like, popped, like, 2 miles before. And I was, like, kind of, like, limping the last, like, little bit, like, run walking, basically. And it felt like there were the craziest climbs, like West Granger climbs, and I'm sure they were like 100 foot,
At so the small. End, it always feels like you got your poles and you're like leaning over.
But there's like a pretty long like switchback-y section. It's how you start the race. Okay. So I could like hear and see the finish for a little bit. Cool. Not like long enough to where it was like taunting. Yeah. But enough to be like pretty hype, and my crew had cowbells, and so I can hear everybody and the song's going, and my friend Justine and I have like started during races like holding hands, which I think is just really wholesome. And so I'm like, we have to like cross the finish holding hands. And yeah, I don't know, like it meant so much. This in general, this past year has been really, really hard for like my own mental health. And like before Tahoe started, I like had this moment like the day of Tahoe of clarity of these people are traveling like 16 plus hours to be here just because they want to be here. Like there's nothing they get in return for doing this thing. Like obviously I'll pace or crude or whatever, but they're not like asking for it. They're just here because they love me and they support me and they think I can do it. They wouldn't be here if they didn't think that I could do it. And so for me, it was just like, it didn't matter what happened like during the race. Like I had my crew with me and like they believed in me and they loved me. And so like whatever else happened was like, whatever, if I got fucking last place, so be it. I had like the best people with me. Yeah. So crossing the finish line was like the culmination of like a year's worth of hard work of like focusing on my own mental health and investing in my community and like showing up for the people that I love, and they showed up for me and like full and fucking bald caps. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like, it was super emotional. Yeah, it was like one of the best feelings. I feel like it's so hard to put into words, like what running for 72 or walking for 72 hours like actually feels like. Yeah. But people show up in such big ways, and I had so many friends because I gave my like Instagram to one of the people in my crew, and they were just posting updates and whatever else, and then I get my phone back or turn it on after like 3 days of like not looking at it. Yeah. And I have friends from high school and college like texting me like, "Hey, I watched the live stream of you finishing." I'm like,
so cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's random, but thank you. Like I appreciate it. I'm like, that's a boring thing to watch. Like somebody like slow jogging across.
You're like, I was like crawling, but awesome.
Yeah, I was like anticlimactic, but I appreciate it.
Up a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, it was awesome. Like I don't know. I don't know that anything will like really top that again, but hopefully it will. I'll give it a try. So
yeah, every time you accomplish something that you think's like impossible at one point, you're always just like, there's nothing that's gonna beat this. But then like there's another race and
there's always more stuff. Yeah. And the nice thing about Tahoe is like I think since it was so long, like distance wise and time wise, now everything else seems so small in comparison. So I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that 50 mile this weekend if you want to go do it, you know? Which I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but now I just like want to go hang out with everybody in the mountains all the time.
Yeah. That's a great thing, I think. Didn't you sign up for another 250 this year?
Yeah, I'm signed up for Cocodona.
Cocodona.
Yeah.
That's going to be so crazy.
Yeah. I think I've
when
invited...
When is that one?
It's May.
Okay.
Beginning of May. I think I've invited every single person I've ever met. I like see a random stranger on the street. I'm like, what are you doing May 6th?
You're like, hey, I have an invite for you.
Yeah. Like there's a spot in the Airbnb for you. I was telling somebody, I was like, I don't know if 100% Airbnb exists, but I'm going to find out.
You're like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because that's how many people are coming.
Yeah. I hope. Everybody listening, you're invited.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you're probably mid-training for that. How is it with the winter running and everything?
Yeah, I love winter running.
Really?
Yeah. This year we don't have as much snow right now. And even though I say I love winter running, last winter did kill my soul. Because it was like breaking trail. I'm an early morning run person just before I start work. And it was breaking trail at like hip deep snow every single day, even in the foothills. And
you are so dedicated.
Yeah, after a while it was like enough, especially when I was like blizzarding in April or whatever of last year. But I think there's something magical about like the snow and running when it's dark outside and it's quieter and there's less people and you know all of those like magical little moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of in the throes of training. Yeah, I'm interested to see like it's my first time working with a coach, so strategically like I hate taking rest days so much. Like, I just love to hang out with everybody all the time. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I not as much from a standpoint of, like, wanting to do well from a competitive nature, but I want to be the 72-year-old that's out, like, towing the line at Wasatch 100, you know? So it's like I'm in it for the longevity of the sport, so I figure I might as well, like, try to be strategic.
Yeah.
And, like, learn how to properly train.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like once you've run a few ultra marathons, it's not so much about finishing, but it's about feeling like you did your best in training and that like you were able to like show up for yourself on race day. Yeah. And so that's probably also like a really cool part about working with a coach is that you can show up really prepared to like do something for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. My friend is coaching me.
Okay.
And which has been really fun so far just because, he actually knows me. And because I had messaged him. I was like, do you know anybody who's good for like the 200 distance? He was like, me. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you just don't tell me to run less miles. He said, deal. It's like, awesome. Best like, coach ever. Yeah.
Who is your coach?
Zach Marion.
Cool.
Yeah. He's great.
Awesome. Has he run a lot of 200s then?
He hasn't done a 200 before, but he's well-versed in pretty much all things. And he lived here for a bit, too. And so he knows the trails, which I feel like makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that does. He can give you, like...
good recs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he created a route for me for my birthday. I was like...
that's awesome.
Thank you.
You're like, yeah. Wow.
My love language.
I'm touched.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So Cocodona 250. Anything else this year lined up?
I'm doing Coldwater in January just to kind of like prep for it and get used to. I feel like Arizona trails are so much different.
For sure,
like so much
desert
rockier.
trails.
Yeah. So kind of just get used to that, and I don't have anybody, at least as of right now, like pacing or crewing. So just trying to get used to like long miles by myself, which I should have a lot of people out hopefully for Cocodona.
Yeah.
But still, I think there's it's beneficial to be able to do it alone. But other than that, I don't really have anything. I for some reason just assumed I would get into Western or Hard Rock with one single entry. And I was like,
you're like, I'm lucky enough.
Yeah, I was like, I just feel it in my bones, and then I didn't. So yeah, nothing else. I think a friend and I, one of my like other really good running friends, Derek, we're gonna do Wonderland Trail. My friend Justine is doing Bigfoot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was like, if I'm out there, I guess I have to do Wonderland. So that, and then my my family does a lot of Ironmans, so they're more in like that world.
Yeah.
So I'm actually doing an Ironman versus my dad. And
that's cool.
Yeah, which is so different.
Yeah.
And I haven't really like thought about what that's gonna entail.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's done in like 15 hours or whatever.
You're like, that's nothing.
Yeah,
I
was like, do I need to train? I don't know. I'll bike a couple miles, I suppose.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Where is your Ironman?
It's in Arizona.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of Arizona stuff this year.
Yeah. The year of Arizona.
Yeah, I love desert races. I think they're just like
it's flat. It's gorgeous. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and beautiful too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess those things. I'm sure something else will fall on the calendar at some point, but trying to keep it pretty much just focused on Cocodona for the most part.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about running trails is that like there's a million personal projects you can just like kind of pull out of a hat.
Yeah.
There's a million like just cool trails that people like niche into. And
yeah, I love the Grand Canyon. Like probably try to do that again this year or next year. Yeah, a lot of personal projects. I'm sure that'll just fill up my time. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like let's run 50 miles on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you so much. If you have any advice to any like girls that are getting into running or who are thinking about maybe running an ultramarathon, or if you could give advice to yourself when you were maybe just starting, do you have something you would say?
I think in general, like first try to find a running group. Like the accountability is like makes a world of a difference. And then I'd say be patient with yourself. Like it's so easy to like have the comparison game or think that you're not improving, and then you look back a year and you're like, oh my god, I've come so far. So I think just like be patient, believe in yourself, and like you'll get there, like no doubt.
That's awesome. And Women of the Wasatch, if you're in Utah.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
come join us.
You've got like a Discord that people can join, and then there's the Instagram. We'll link below.
Yeah.
We'll link your Instagram below.
Cool. Yes.
And Strava and
DM
everything.
me if you want to run with me.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elsa. You are the best.
Bye.